And for this conversation, I am joined by Clive Ramathibela-Smith, Senior Executive Partner, Hecare Capital Partners. Thank you so much for joining me today, Mr. Ramathibela-Smith.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the time.
Absolutely. What did you make of the engagement between President Trump and President Cyril Ramaphosa on Wednesday?
I haven't had sleep because I've been discussing this particular issue. So, thank you very much for having us. I mean, I think what's important and critical was to realize that the team from South Africa was very well prepared. I'm talking from a strategic point of view, where the responses, the calmness of the president, his delegation was very, very precise. They made very clear where South Africa stands in terms of the rumors and the fake propaganda that's been spiraled out of control in the US, particularly on the right wing, about South Africa experiencing a genocide of white people in the country. You would remember a week ago, the reason why this is all on top of us, 59 South African white Afrikaners arrived in the United States, and they were welcomed by the Deputy Secretary of State. And it sounded to me, when you listen to the interaction there, that they'd made up their mind with regards to who is it that they're going to believe. And unfortunately, when the likes of Mr. Rupert, Mr. Annie Els, Retief Goosen, who are white Afrikaners living in South Africa, arrived at the White House and said, listen, there is no genocide. And I think that was revealing, and it forced President Trump to actually concede. And I don't want to take too much wind of what the media has been saying, but it's critical because even right-wing media, like the likes of Fox News, have realized that there's been inconsistencies in these stories that they're sharing, especially when he exposes articles that are not even related to the South African demographic of white people, but rather some parts of Africa elsewhere and not in South Africa, and changing that direct and do an ambush of the presidency and his delegation to play small political points to the president. So I think if you're South Africa, if you're in South Africa, you're very proud of the president and how he handled the matter. If you're American, you know, it's interesting that President Trump mentions that there's fake news media, and yet at the same time, it's the very evidence that he produced to try and prove to the president of South Africa that there's genocide happening in South Africa, which is actually false.
Well, I quite understand that, but what about the case of Malema? I mean, he was talking about maybe he should have been arrested. What do you make of that?
These are the kind of things that make it very, very interesting, and in particular when it comes to the views of smaller minority parties who are in opposition of the African National Congress. You have there now somebody like John Steenhuisen, who sits as a Minister of Agriculture in South Africa, who actually expressed and explained the situation the best way that he could to the president. Mr. Malema or anybody else who makes these unfortunate remarks. The point is South Africa has a deep history, and so therefore there's different political views. It's critical to remember is that we believe in free speech, and so therefore that's why Mr. Malema can speak as freely as he wants. It does not mean that resonates with the rest of the country and the people of South Africa, nor the political realm, because we obviously have to make our own decisions on that. But certainly, we're talking about somebody who is in opposition, and we would not arrest somebody. I mean, the statement that he made about killing the Boer or killing the Afrikaner, that case actually was dismissed in court. So it means that our values and our laws allow for people to express themselves the way they want to, as long as obviously it doesn't incite violence or create uncomfortableness for other South Africans as well.
Right, just before we get on to what you think about, the strained ties between both countries, I would like you to maybe take a few seconds to walk us through the land expropriation law, because, I mean, it's one of the issues in focus, and there are concerns about the exclusion of compensation. Do you think we need to revisit it, or it's just being overstated by those who are against it? I mean, some of the issues that have been raised against it, are they being overstated?
The South African government in 2004 made a resolution to make sure that land expropriation happens with compensation. Unfortunately, 20 years later, we still don't have the prerequisite structure, the shift, or the needle hasn't shifted to getting us to a point where we have equitable land, particularly for the Black majority. And so this bill that was introduced in February, that was signed into law in February, aims and targets the perspective of increasing accessibility to land. And when we say without compensation, it does not necessarily mean that government can just take without paying for it. It means if there are no special circumstances that the land is not being utilized, the government can then exercise its power to obtain that particular land, and not by force, legally so, where there's a process and there's proof that that land has not been utilized to its full capacity. So the notion that this is somewhat being taken out of context and you must take land from white people and give it to the Black people, that's certainly an incorrect conclusion.
All right, to the main issue here, which is strengthening ties with the U.S. Do you think this is going on well for, both countries at the moment, considering what happened yesterday?
It's unfortunate that not many people would have seen the deliberations at the back of the meeting, the lunch that was enjoyed by the delegation and the presidency, the working visits when it started since Sunday. These deliberations have been very well received by both the Republicans and the Democrats, and also the proposals that South Africa has submitted have been received very positively, and hence the reason the president in his evening address yesterday said that he's very, very happy and positive about how the meeting went. Now, whether or not these proposals will be approved, that will be the pudding, and the taste of or rather the results thereof will be that if we do get some sort of agreement going and they agree in principle to implement some of these proposals, that means this trip would have been a definite success. It is still successful because the meeting had to happen. Yes, there was an ambush, but the fact that the South African delegation held themselves so professionally, I think that in itself is good for South Africa. It's good for our global standing as South Africans, and also the representation at the larger extent of the African continent.
Well, can you give us some insight into the proposals you're referring to here? And apart from that, we also know that before now there were talks about a deal between South Africa and Elon Musk, which was anticipated before the meeting. I mean, he was supposed to sort of make deals with Musk on Starlink, and also to look at favorable tariffs on Tesla imports into South Africa in exchange for building electric vehicle charging stations. So what do we know about all of these? Were they part of the proposals? What do we know about the proposals that are on ground now?
So I will not divulge the details of all the proposals. We have 11 of them that were structured, that were set before the U.S. government. One of the critical ones, obviously, is the ALGOA Act, which is at risk and has actually stopped since President Trump introduced the temporary tariffs, which we hope at the end of the 90 days that we will be able to have that back. We also obviously speaking about the issues around agriculture. That's why we had the Minister of Agriculture in this meeting to discuss the issues of the amount of agricultural products that has been exported to the United States market, and the fact that the tariffs will have a significant impact on the pricing that will be now added onto those that we'll be selling currently to the United States. And obviously, if they don't buy more, that means that our farmers here locally will struggle. The other thing that was very critical is about infrastructure development. You would have heard some of the comments that were made in the public domain about how to rectify that and to structure it so that it can benefit everybody.
Absolutely.
But there's also one thing that I don't know if you picked up. I don't know if you picked up this one, which is very interesting.
Land on it in less than 12 seconds.
I will. It's about preventing crime in South Africa using technology. Elon Musk was there and he was talking about Starlink coming to South Africa to invest. And that's part and parcel of the reason why this meeting was important, because Starlink now, and I can bet you, he is ready to invest in his home in South Africa. So we are excited. We are happy about it.
Thank you so much. I'm afraid I have to end this conversation. I mean, we've got the juice already. So Clive Ramathibela-Smith, Senior Executive Partner, Hecare Capital Partners, thank you for your time and your thoughtful insights you shared. We'll make do with those. Thank you.
Thank you very much.